Yes, welcome to Bikes of Rye, and thank you for clicking on my video. Now before we jump into this motorcycle review, as a rapidly growing motorcycle content creator, Bikes of Rye is dedicated to offering motorcycle related content, including motovlogs, touring, news and bike reviews. If you simply subscribe to Bikes of Rye, you'll not only be sure not to miss out on valuable entertaining content, but also be a part of our special growing community. So to those of you who have just kindly hit the subscribe button, welcome along for the ride. I very much appreciate you. Now on with the review. Right then, let's jump aboard the 2022 Yamaha R7. Oh, I'm very excited for this. Okay, first things first, I need to just clarify a couple of things before we get this review underway. And these are important points to make, and that is that I actually own a Yamaha 10RA, and actually my bike is currently in having its service, and that's why I'm out on this bike. But of course that 10RA of mine shares the same engine as this, and also I have owned a Yamaha R6 in the past, and I had that for a couple of years. So that could be maybe a positive thing or maybe a negative thing in the case of this Yamaha R7. And what I will say is, if you stick around until the end of the video, I will share my summary of this Yamaha R7. But for now, what we will do is get to know this bike. Now, they're not the most ideal conditions today to really get to know this bike, but I'm not going to mess around. I'm going to still see what it's saying. And I have to say, first impressions are that it's a sporty rider position, but I'm going to tell you straight off that it's not as aggressive as my Yamaha R6. It's definitely less wristy, but it does have a noticeable slant to the seat, so you typically slide forward on it. And as for the foot pegs, well, they're not as high as you would expect. I'm 6 foot tall, and I don't feel squashed on this bike. Actually, it feels, borderline roomy for a sports bike, and especially a 700cc bike at that. You would expect this to be tiny, and it is small, but it doesn't really feel that when you're actually riding it. Considering the price of this bike as well, I have to say it's a very nice place to sit. You almost could, you think you're sitting on an R1. I mean, yeah, okay, not quite, but looking at the dash, it seems classy considering the price of this bike. This bike is 8,500 if I've got that correct, and this bike is actually aimed at new riders. Now, can you imagine coming from an R125 or an R3 and jumping onto this? Okay, very odd, but the bike just cut out for no reason there. Is this another Euro 5 issue? I had this on my Triumph, and it's when they're running so lean, they just typically just randomly cut out. It happens to a lot of bikes lately, so they run them lean to get them through the emissions regulations. And as I say, what that does is it tends to have the bike cut out from time to time, and it can be a bit dangerous. This S3 is going to go for it. Think 72 brake horsepower isn't enough, and I've just shown you how actually it is. And I came off that roundabout and I had the rear wheels spin up on me too, because of course there is no traction control on this bike, but that's a warning for me to take it a little bit easier. But that just there, right, with the back end sliding a little bit, just stepping out ever so slightly, and you're taking it to the red line. And again, imagine if this was your first big bike, you would not be disappointed. Right, no one's behind me. What we'll do is we'll just do a little launch, see what it's saying. Okay. That's satisfying, that is. Oh, very user friendly. It just The quick shifter was beautiful there as well, very precise, no missed gears. Lovely. It's a nice surge of power actually. It's a power that you would come out of a bend and you could pretty much pin it in the dry, I would say, and the bike would just lap it up. Do another power run. Mate, that is not slow. For 72 brake horsepower, that is not hanging around. It seems to me that you would easily be able to hit top speed as well, which is supposedly 130. Good bit of road here. It is all uphill. It's a bit damp, but I can't go too bad or get a good feel of it. Yeah, it's alright, you know. Suspension wise, I have to say I'm quite impressed. It's a little bit fidgety at times, but as I say, I think it's pretty good for my rider weight. It's very agile, easy to change direction on it with little input. But yeah, what do you expect? I mean, what is it, 188 kilos I think the bike is, and it, you know, you can feel that it's light on its toes. So we'll just have a little look around the R7, and I do really like the looks, and it's a very sporty looking bike, obviously nice in the black, but the standout feature for me on the looks are this single LED bulb. It's very MotoGP looking front end, isn't it? Big air intake, and then you've got your daytime runners here. I'm not overly keen on the heat shield for the catalytic converter. Have a look at the underseat storage here. There is none. Also, look how dirty it gets under there. Christ. That's back on. Yeah, nice rear end to it as well. Another look at that front end quickly with the lights on. Does look smart, doesn't it? Look at it. Angry. Okay, so a quick summary of the 2022 Yamaha R7. I will first off say, as I feel it is important to clarify, that this bike is not a replacement for the discontinued R6. This is a direct competitor to the likes of the Aprilia RS660 and the Honda CBR 650R. Yamaha are offering a road-friendly bike for someone who has just passed their big bike test. And what a perfect first big bike the Yamaha R7 is. The R7 is very tame and smooth around town, and actually not overly too uncomfortable at slow speeds. The clutch is light and fueling is crisp with no snatchy on or throttle. When the road opens up and you want some fun, the engine jumps into life with its urgent torque delivery. The power is manageable with just enough to have a giggle on, especially when you are flicking up through the gears on the quick shifter. But it doesn't have too much power that it requires a host of electronic rider aids, which is why the R7 is so affordable. The suspension is average and works adequately at reasonable speeds. Putting myself in the shoes of a new rider, you can sail left to right and move around on the seat with confidence, building up your skills while not being too intimidated. However, worth mentioning that when you look to scrub some speed off, the front brake does require a significant squeeze, and coupled with the lack of engine braking, it highlights the weak front brake even more. Overall, I want to say that this bike certainly fills a gap between learner and middleweight. It is also stunning value for money too. Is it a better bike than the likes of the Aprilia RS660? Well, I've ridden the Tuono version, and I will say that ignoring the lack of electronics for now, the R7 is slightly more agile, and the engine provides more urgent mid-range poke. The Aprilia beats it on suspension, brakes, and well, it also has all the bells and whistles. But the Yamaha R7 is almost £2,000 less, and £2 goes a very long way when you consider all the other ancillaries that you require being a biker. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this review, and if you did, please let me know with a thumbs up, and I look forward to reading your comments and seeing you on another video soon. Thanks for watching, see you later.